Welcome to the District of West Vancouver Council Chamber. I'm here now to talk to you about the deliberation phase. So council meets twice a month and they consider all sorts of different reports that are brought forward by staff. Some of these reports cover all sorts of matters ranging from the new fees and charges bylaw, proposed developments, and all sorts of other exciting things that we deal with here on a day-to-day basis at the municipal level. There's a certain process that bylaw approvals have to follow, and this is set out in the Local Government Act and the Community Charter, so provincial legislation that governs how we as local governments operate. A bylaw is required to be given 3 readings, first, second, and third reading, and then at a subsequent meeting, it's available to come for adoption, and sometimes there's related public input requirements that also are involved. So with regard to the fees and charges bylaw that we were referring to earlier, before council considers third reading, they have to give a public input opportunity. So our division, Legislative Services, will publish an ad in the local newspaper so that members of the public know that the fees and charges bylaw is being considered, and that they'll have an opportunity to attend and to speak to the bylaw and to share their thoughts prior to council considering that third reading. So in terms of practical application, council would be sitting here around a horseshoe, or in our COVID era, they're kind of participating via WebEx or one of those other digital platforms. And the bylaw would be brought forward. They would make a motion to read the bylaw a first time, and then another motion to read it a second time, another motion to read it a third time. And prior to that motion to read the bylaw a third time, they would invite members of the public to come up and address them with their thoughts on the bylaw. Assuming that the bylaw is given 3 readings, it would then come back at a subsequent council meeting for adoption. Once the bylaw is adopted, then it would go through an execution process, which we'll get to later. It's a little bit different for the development bylaws. For a zoning and official community plan bylaw, staff would bring forward a report asking council to give the bylaw first reading and to set the date for a public hearing. A public hearing is a statutory requirement in which we send out, again, advertisements, we mail out notices, and usually the chamber gets pretty packed. We've had hundreds of people out for these before, and it's an opportunity for anyone who believes that their interest in property might be affected by the proposed development to come forward and share their views with council. So there's the first reading, then there's a public hearing, so there's 2 meetings right there. Then at a subsequent meeting, they can give the bylaw second and third reading, so there's another meeting, we're at 3. And then lastly, the bylaw will be adopted at a 4th and final meeting, assuming that council decides to proceed with the bylaw.